Hey Talesverser, welcome back to the channel. Most people move through their days on autopilot. Morning arrives, the phone lights up, notifications pull attention, decisions happen on reflex, conversations unfold without much presence, and night comes before anything truly registers. Thoughts spin in the background like background music no one asked for. Emotions flare and fade without being noticed. Life rolls forward, but it often feels like someone else is steering. Consciousness changes that dynamic completely. It isn't a faraway spiritual achievement or something only advanced meditators can touch. Consciousness means simply waking up to what is already occurring, right here, right now, in your body, in your mind, in the room around you. When consciousness is active, thinking no longer runs unchecked. You see the thought happening. Anger no longer owns you. You watch it rise, move through your chest, and eventually pass. Scrolling isn't automatic anymore. You notice the hand reaching for the phone and the impulse behind it. That first shift rarely feels dramatic. One afternoon, you might notice your mind racing about something small, a text that hasn't come, a work email you haven't replied to, and instead of following the spiral, you pause, just for a second. That pause is the doorway. Over weeks and months, those pauses lengthen, patterns become visible. Certain thoughts reliably produce the same tight feeling in the stomach. Stress makes shoulders rise toward the ears. Boredom triggers the thumb to swipe. You begin to stand back and watch instead of being pulled inside every story your mind tells. This matters deeply because almost all unnecessary suffering comes from over-identifying with whatever appears in awareness. Thoughts are believed as facts. Emotions are taken as identity. When consciousness grows, you stop treating every passing mental event as me or mine. A fearful thought arrives, you see it, but you don't become it. A wave of irritation sweeps through. You feel the heat, but you don't act from it. Choices open up. Reactions lose their automatic quality. Life doesn't suddenly become perfect, but it loses much of its heaviness. You walk around carrying far less invisible baggage. Building this kind of awareness doesn't demand perfect conditions or exotic practices. Tiny entry points work best. Sit for 10 seconds and follow the breath, not to force relaxation, just to notice it moving in and out. Feel the weight of your hands resting on your thighs. Sense the temperature of the air touching your skin. When the impulse to check your phone appears, watch it for 3 breaths before you act. Each small noticing creates a crack in the autopilot wall. Over time, the cracks widen. Mental chatter quiets. Emotional waves rise and fall more gently. A background peace begins to show itself. Not loud euphoria, but a steady, uncaused calm that exists underneath everything else. That growing space between stimulus and response, between thought and identification, already transforms daily experience for most people who stay with the practice. But there is a further movement that some encounter, one that goes beyond improved awareness or emotional regulation. A few speak about it carefully, almost in whispers, because it doesn't fit neatly into self-help language or productivity frameworks. They call it enlightenment. Enlightenment is not an upgrade to consciousness. It is the recognition that the entire framework of a separate me was never ultimately true. The persistent feeling of being an isolated self inside a body, peering out at an external world, that whole construct simply ceases to hold. For most people, there is no thunderclap moment, no blinding light, no voice declaring ultimate truth. The seeing arrives quietly. There never was a separate self to begin with. All experience unfolds within one undivided awareness, and that awareness is what you have always been. The ego, the ongoing narrative of me with its history, its likes and dislikes, its fears and ambitions, is recognized as nothing more than a temporary mental pattern. It isn't violently removed or killed off, it simply stops being taken as real. Daily life continues unchanged on the surface. Meals are eaten, work is done, people are spoken to, joy and sorrow still visit, yet none of it carries the old weight of personal ownership. There is no longer a me trying to extract meaning, safety, or validation from any experience. No one left to protect, no one left to prove anything to. Pain and emotion do not disappear. Sadness arises, anger passes through, fear moves in the body, but nothing sticks. There is no secondary suffering created by the belief, this is happening to me. Pain is seen as sensation moving through awareness. Sadness is seen as energy flowing. Fear is seen as a wave that crests and dissolves. The old habit of resisting or clinging to these movements falls away. What remains is peace that doesn't depend on conditions, not because life becomes perfect, but because nothing needs to be different anymore. Those who have lived this shift describe ordinary moments as both completely mundane and strangely intimate. Traffic remains traffic, rain still falls, conversations still happen, yet everything feels allowed to be exactly as it is. There is no longer an inner commentator trying to improve, judge, or escape the moment. The background tension of self-concern dissolves. Life is met directly, without the filter of a personal story. The movement toward this recognition rarely follows a straight line. For some, it emerges gradually through years of quiet attention, self-inquiry, or steady presence. For others, it arrives abruptly, sometimes in the middle of ordinary suffering, sometimes in a moment of complete stillness. The common thread is always the same. The illusion of separation is seen through. Once that seeing occurs, the belief in a separate self can never again be fully restored. Enlightenment doesn't end living, it ends the exhausting project of living as if you are apart from it. Everything continues, but without the friction of a self that needs to be maintained, protected, or improved. That single shift alters the texture of existence more than any external change ever could. Comment below if you've ever had even a brief taste of that kind of seeing. Like if this gave you something to sit with, subscribe if you want more explorations into the deeper layers of mind and being, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for watching. See you soon.